Are you ready to go on an adventure? Let's go. As I mentioned earlier, there will be times I talk about God and share scripture. In fact, I attempt to put scripture into every lesson, and the scripture that I include has something to do with that lesson or whatever you're learning at the time. So before I jump into what this first scripture is, because anytime you see this particular background, that is scripture that I will be sharing. But I do know that there are people out there who don't understand scripture yet. Maybe they've never even opened a Bible before and are watching this. That's okay. I was that person just a couple of years ago, actually, well, a few years ago. And I didn't understand what it meant when it said James 1:5 TPT. I was like, what does that even mean? And so if you're in that place right now, I want to give you some education. If you already know what it means, then, just give me 10 seconds to talk to somebody who's learning. The James part of it means that's the book of James. The 1 before the colon means the chapter within that book. And then the 5 after the colon means the verse within that chapter. The TPT afterwards stands for the type or the translation that it belongs to. In this case, TPT will be the Passion Translation. And you'll see that on the screen in just a moment. But I want to let people know that I've purposely chosen to choose verses out of all kinds of different translations because I want it to be a wide variety of interest. People like different versions, so I want to include different versions, but it also helps to educate us and see different perspectives. And so just so you know, when you see all these different translations, it is on purpose so that people who might be learning can learn a little bit. Again, I'm newer on this journey. I did not grow up in church. I did not understand this when I first started. So I'm hoping that this can even be a lesson for new believers as well. All right, so the first scripture goes right along with what we're doing right now. And if anyone longs to be wise, ask God for wisdom, and he will give it. He won't see your lack of wisdom as an opportunity to scold you over your failures, but he will overwhelm your failures with his generous grace. James 1:5 TPT, the Passion Translation. So the reason I chose this as the first verse in this whole course is because I feel like a lot of times we try to run our businesses and our lives on our own strength, our own knowledge and wisdom, and that doesn't always work out. I tried that for so long before I came to know Christ, and it was really when I decided to give my life and my business over to God that things really started making a difference. And I hope that you can find that same release and joy through this course. All right, let's move on. We are now at the car dealership. Now, that is what I'm calling it for the roadmap purposes, because this whole roadmap is a theme. Everything that we talk about in the roadmap will have some kind of theme to do with a vehicle or a car or a road or a trip. But what does it mean in the business course sense? Well, our course category is you have a choice to make. Before we go anywhere on this journey, you need to decide which vehicle are we traveling in. So we have an important decision. Lesson 1, stop managing your time. Is that a surprise to you? You thought this was a time management course, didn't you? It's not. It is a master your time course. Let's jump into the fun stuff. Another scripture verse, because we are technically in a new lesson. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. This comes from Matthew 6:24 in the English Standard Version. And the reason I chose this is because we have a decision to make. In our Christian walk, we have to choose God or money. That doesn't mean we can't make money and love God. We have to choose, who do we serve, God or money? Who is our priority? In this course, we have a different choice to make, but it is very similar. You can't have both. It is a this or that decision. So you need to decide if you want to be a manager or a master. Do you want to manage your time or master your time? Let's dive into what that actually means. Managing your time. The Oxford Dictionary shows that the word manage, used as a verb, is to be in charge of a company, establishment, or undertaking. Administer, run. And then the second option here is succeed in surviving or in attaining one's aims, especially against heavy odds. Cope. Let's break those down, guys. Option 1 says be in charge of. So you are in charge of this. You may not have the control, but you are the one in charge. Administer. So you are coordinating and administering. You are running. And I laugh at this because I actually have a part of this course that's later on that is called sprint. And running, a lot of you who are managing your time, you are running from place to place, and you're so stressed out. But I don't want to get you too stuck in the manage part. Let's move on to option number 2 of managing. Let's dive into what each of these look like. Succeed in surviving. Who in the world wants to succeed in surviving? I don't want to just survive, you guys. I want to thrive. I want to succeed in thriving. Attaining one's aims. Okay, so you are attaining. That's not too bad, especially against heavy odds. Cope. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to cope with your time? Cope. Oh, that word, I can't even. Let's go into mastering your time. Again, Oxford Dictionary says the word master means acquire complete knowledge or skill in, an accomplishment, technique, or art, gain control of, overcome. All right, let's dive into what these words look like. Option 1, acquire. Acquire sounds amazing. I'd love to acquire, right? Acquire complete knowledge. I understand that knowledge and wisdom are 2 different things, but in the verse I shared earlier about wisdom, asking God for wisdom, asking Him for complete knowledge, all of the above. You guys, this is a skill, an accomplishment, a technique. It's art. These sound a lot better than managing, don't they? Look at option 2, gain. Because that means to add, to multiply, gain. Control. Here you do have the control. You are in control. Overcome. Oh, there is a Christian song that I love that sings about God overcoming us with His presence. And that's what I think about here. So if your boat is sinking, you don't really care in which direction it is pointed. This is a quote by David Allen, who is an author. And the reason I inserted this quote here is because when you're managing time, you don't care what you need to do to stop the management. You're just worried about the next thing you need to do, the next thing on your to-do list, your next appointment, the next thing. You don't care about the long-term effects. It's just the short-term. Where do I go from here? What is the next thing? And so that really relates to what we're doing here, because if your boat is sinking, you're not worried about the direction it's going. If you're managing your time, you're not worried about how to fix it. But if you're mastering your time, you have a plan. You have backups for if the boat does sink. You don't get frazzled. You're smooth sailing, right? So there are free resources about this topic and lots of other topics at our website at fusebusinesstraining.com. All right, so you have a choice to make. Which do you want to be? Would you like to be a time manager or a time master? And I'm going to give you a moment to decide, because I know it looks like an easy decision, but it's really not. So many of you, like myself, once upon a time, are managing your time, and you are stressed, and you don't know how to get out of this rat race, if you will, this crazy back and forth, spinning in circles on a hamster wheel. You don't know how to beat this. I was there before, you guys. I was there. You tell yourself you want to get better. You tell yourself you want to learn things to have more time. You want to wake up early. You want to do this. You want to do that. But it's difficult. You have to make a commitment. And so if you choose to be a time master, you have to understand that there is a commitment involved. And yes, that woman in the picture looks stress-free and happy. And that is the result. But it doesn't happen overnight. So make your decision. If you decide that you want to continue being a time manager, then this is not the course for you. You should just turn off the video now, because you're not going to get anything out of it. But if you are ready to master your time, it is time to move forward. You have just chosen your first vehicle for this road trip, and it's a sedan. Why a sedan? Well, sedans are small, like most businesses when they first start. They are fuel efficient, which means we can get further with less fuel, or in business, we can get further with less money, right? Maybe even less knowledge. And most sedans can seat about 4 people. So you don't have to go it alone. Maybe you've got a partner or a group of partners or a small team already. So we're going to choose a sedan. We're going to start our road trip. Our first stop is the gas station. What do we do at a gas station? And why did we stop at a gas station? Well, in the scope of business, let's look at this as your resources. When you stop at the beginning of a road trip, when you're going to a real physical destination, it's usually because you need to put gas in your car. Maybe you want to get a drink for the road, or maybe you need a map, or whatever it might be. This is where you're gathering your resources for the journey ahead. So it's time to refuel, recharge, quench your thirst, grab a snack, or any other item of convenience that you may need at this time. Over the next several lessons, you are going to be gathering resources. You are going to be growing because of these resources. And it's going to help you for every other step in the roadmap, these resources that you gather during these next several lessons. It's important to know that you don't have to rush through these lessons. You could do 1 lesson a day, 1 lesson a week, 1 lesson a month, whatever works for your schedule. There is not a right or wrong answer in this. It's about implementation. If you are just rushing through this and not implementing, it's not going to be beneficial to you, and you're really just wasting your time. So I encourage you to make sure you take time to implement. When we have a timer, make sure that you use that time to do what is asked of you.